So, Dane, I'd like to start this week off with an apology.
Who we apologize to?
It's not for who I am, because I'm unapologetically me. I'm sorry.
That's good.
But what I can apologize for is my congestion. Apparently, I've got that forever cold that everyone seems to be getting nowadays, and I thought I was better last week and enjoying myself, and then all of a sudden woke up on Monday with the same cold that I had on Friday. So the apology goes out to all the listeners, and if you have this perma cold that everyone else has, why don't you get in the comments and tell me what you're doing to remedy it. I got Afrin and Rinse going like crazy over here. It's like nonstop.
Do you have the vid? Do you have long COVID? Do you have schlong COVID?
No, and even if I did, I'd never admit it. Don't want to give it the satisfaction. Don't you dare
That's
touch
a way
me,
to be.
COVID.
That's the way to be. Ever defiant to the end.
Holy shit. All right. Well,
what are we talking about this week, David? What are we telling the memes? Sorry, am I rushing you? Is this Moscow?
I'm trying to tell them, Dane. Jeez Louise. Speaking of Moscow, our meme destruction this week is bear with us. Dane, you're smiling over there. Why are you smiling, Dane?
It's about bears.
And then we got a culture corner for you. Not your flower power protests.
No, this one smells more like unshaved armpits and Beyond Burgers. I know, right?
That sounds like a pretty aggressive Saturday night, my friend. Oh,
yeah.
You want to get back on topic and jump in?
Let's do it. Let's jump in. Welcome to Weapons of Meme Destruction Podcast, episode 192, which can be found at wmdpodcast.com/192. You can get the audio only on any podcast catcher. Just search Weapons of Meme Destruction, and you can get the video on YouTube, Rumble, and Odyssey. This week, we have a meme segment for you, and we have a culture corner segment for you. The meme segment is the viral, talking point that started on TikTok and has now metastasized out to all social media. We're talking about the blue-haired femnazi kind of opinion that, really caught fire this past week of, would you as a woman rather see a bear in the woods or a man? We will discuss. And as for the culture corner segment, we're talking about today's campus protesting lefties are not your parents' 1960s protesting the Vietnam War lefties. They are very different, and David and I are going to talk to you about how they're different and why that's not a good sign for the direction we're headed as a country. So, David,
stick around.
With that being said, what do you say? Bear in the woods? Man in the woods? What are you afraid of? Go.
Dane, I approach both with caution, certainly, because I know to approach both with caution, certainly. First of all, what the fuck are you doing in the woods? Are you supposed to be there? Like, the woods isn't a natural place for us anymore. I hate to break it to you. And if you're a woman, just walk. What is she? The woods have very poor cell reception. And you said this is a TikTok, right?
I think it started as like one girl posed the question on TikTok, and then everybody started running with it. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. First of all, I wouldn't be caught in the woods. If I did get caught in the woods, I would try to find my way out of it immediately. So I'm assuming that I'm running into this person as I'm trying to find my way out. Would I rather run into a bear or a man? Well, I feel like with a man, I have at least a general knowledge of how to handle him. Whereas with a bear, I don't speak fucking bear. So I can't reason with a bear. So first off, I'd rather take the man anyway. Secondly, I don't know if you know about bear, but if this meeting does go very purely, which it's probably going to go pretty purely, especially I don't know why this chick forgot about it. It was in Anchorman. The bears can smell the menstruation. Okay? So, second strike against running into a bear as a woman. And then thirdly, unlike the lion and most predatory cats that are nice and just grab onto your throat, asphyxiate you, and that's how they kill you, bear, on the other hand, in case you haven't seen The Revenant, they hold you down and eat your asshole while you're screaming, and they don't care. They just hold you and keep eating you while you're screaming. If you want a rendition of this, I suggest checking out Joe Rogan. He impersonates it a lot. Pick and choose. Fuck it. Just watch a nature documentary and listen to Dave Attenborough. This is when the bear loses in all its skin. It's struggling for its life, and it gives zero shits.
So you brought up a few good points there. First one is you know, the general question, what are they doing in the woods? And the reason why that's an important point is because I can promise you that 98+% of these, and again, we're not just picking on the women, even though this started, obviously this is a woman thing, right? Because that's where it started and that's, you know, but not just picking on them, because believe me, there are plenty of soy boys that look exactly like this, that are jumping into all the comment sections saying, look, ladies, I'm one of you. I can mindlessly regurgitate your talking points right back to you. Will you please sleep with me now? I've never had the scent of a woman in my nostrils. But there's plenty of guys like this.
Don't say that.
That's what they say.
They are weird. They would say that.
Is not only the women that are mindlessly saying this, but these type of men, 98% plus of the people that are saying this have probably never once even been in the woods. Forget encountering a bear. So they're speaking from a place of such profound ignorance that it is just oozing through their, you know, condescending tone, you know, as they say that this is a very valid point that they're trying to make. Baked into the statement of, I would rather encounter a bear in the woods, which, again, I'm getting ready to tell you some points that they then immediately back away from, is I would rather encounter a bear in the woods than a man, is they immediately back away from it by saying, well, statistically, most bears, you know, don't really like human encounters, so even if they see me, they run away.
Then you didn't encounter it.
Exactly. So you don't get that point. Your point is, what is going to be a higher risk if you find yourself in the woods of causing you great bodily harm? A bear that you actually encounter, on average, if we're talking about a grizzly, a 400 to 600 pound animal that has the bite strength of I don't know what, but it's a lot. And, you know, a striking, you know, if it hits you with its paw, that amount, blah, blah, blah. Or even if you encounter, like, you know, an offensive left tackle in the NFL, you know, a 6'7", 6'8" dude that weighs 320. Even if you're a 150 pound, 130 pound woman, just the difference between the man and the bear, you stand a much, much better chance of surviving the encounter with the man versus the bear. If, again, we're going to hold you, and I apologize for my autism on this, we're going to hold you to the literal meaning of what your statement actually is I would rather encounter this versus that. Which do you stand a better chance of surviving? It's pretty clearly obvious that it's the man. Because if you kick a bear in the nuts, you better have really good aim with your foot, and you better hope that you kicked hard enough to get through. I think it has like 5 inches of fur. You better hope that you kick hard enough to get through that. You kick a man in the nuts, you can probably get away. So
they can
these
run
are
up to
all
35 miles per hour.
Yes, exactly. So you better incapacitate that thing or you're not getting away. Right. You know, a man chasing you, if he rolls his ankle, again, you can still get away. And then the other thing, just upon that, before I, you know, let you go back in on it, David, is if you happen to have a gun on you in this encounter, the chances that your gun will stop the bear, much, much lower than if you shoot a human being. So, again, I know this is kind of like anathema to this whole group of people that say these things because, you know, boomsticks are very scary things to them, so they would never be caught dead. They might be caught dead without a gun for obvious reasons, but they would never be caught dead with one. So maybe they just don't understand that point. But no matter which way you slice it, if we're talking about a true encounter in the woods, bear versus human, what are you going to survive? Obviously the human. So just on the base level alone, your statement is completely stupid.
Apparently, from what you're saying, is they're taking it a little bit seriously over there on the social media. Like, no, let's hear it out. Let's hear it out.
Oh,
like,
it's very serious.
Oh my god!
Get in the comment sections if you want to lose a couple.
I don't
IQ
go
points.
there.
I know.
I don't
Good
swim
for you.
in shit, and I don't go to the comment section. Okay, like, well,
David, that's redundant. You just said the same thing twice.
I know. I was just doubling down on it.
And I think, and I didn't see the original video. I don't know who was the originator of the whole man versus bear thing. But I think where the fun quickly got, because again, maybe she was doing that and then it just kind of took on a life of its own. But where that came from is because men started doing what men do and responding to it logically and being like, well, first of all, and then they, made the points about, do you have any idea how dangerous a bear really is? And then second of all, the only metaphorical leg that they have to stand on is the statistics. And they say, well, statistically speaking, the most dangerous thing to any woman in her day-to-day life is a man. And that is true. But again, once you go into, the dangerous thing to men is other men too. So, you're not exactly special, sweetheart. But once you start going down that route of statistics, then you have to bring in all kinds of other things that you don't consider. Like in your average everyday life, how many men do you come in contact with versus how many bears? And again, as I stated before, if you've never once been in the woods, then of course you not only have no frame of reference or context for how dangerous a bear really is, your odds of being hurt by a bear. So like when they pull up, last year in America, 8 people were killed by bears, but 12,000 women were victims of sexual assault or whatever, they claim. And it's like, okay,
so what? It's
all about proximity. Same thing when we get into crime statistics. Who is violent towards white people the most? White people, because they tend to be around each other.
It sounds like a bit. It sounds like a bit that she was like coming up with as she was trying to work out. Like, I'd rather run into a bear than a man in the woods. It's not a good bit, but whatever. And then they just started taking it seriously. It's like, you guys really do. And I guess that's really the point, is that they just know how to suck fun out of a room, man. Like, they don't know. You guys just don't know how to have fun anymore. And that's why this fucking country's about to rip apart, because you can't fucking smile, laugh at yourself, and admit that you're wrong every now and again. Oh, I'm sorry. I started to take this conversation a little too seriously. Let me back it up. You're right. Ha, ha, ha. Bears. Fucking men. Anyway, but no. So instead of doing that, they double down and go, no, you're enough. Like, oh, that's fun. That's real fucking fun. Oh, well, look at you. So I just disagreed with you on your hypothetical situation that has no bearing or logic applied to it whatsoever. I just said literally that, and now
pure emotion. Yeah.
Got it. I wasn't being sensitive to your needs. The person that was saying I'm more dangerous to you than a bear. Oh, I'm sorry I insulted you. Heaven forbid.
Again, if these people, it would be hilarious if the complete lack of their own ideological consistency wasn't so pathetic.
Or if they'd admit it. It'd almost be endearing. If they just said, I know I've got some crazy ideas. Sorry. Like,
but that, David, would take self-reflection, which we know
we can't have that nowadays. No.
Yeah.
I never make mistakes. Everyone else does. So,
yeah.
Now that we've suitcased that one, and let's bear with us has been brought to bear. Does that work?
Yeah.
I don't know if it works or not.
I think it works.
So what did you mean when you said that the flower power protests are slightly different? Not your mom and pop's protests anymore nowadays. We're doing shit differently nowadays, apparently.
Very differently. And, to leftist progressives, different is always good, right? Again, assuming it's moving in their direction, right? Progress is never bad. You can, the proverbial, example of just walk into a house and just start knocking down walls. We don't care which ones are structural and, might have the roof cave in if you knock it down, and which ones are just cosmetic. We're going to knock it all down because progress for progress's sake, is a universal and inherent good. Well, that is kind of the attitude that's on display with today's campus protesters because, although this isn't an Epstein segment, this is a Culture Corner segment. There is a very Epstein segment-esque, theme here in the sense that we've been here before. And for, some of the older memes in the sane space, you know exactly what I'm talking about, the campus protests of the Vietnam War. And those lefties are not at all like today's lefties, because the lefties that have been dominating your headlines for the last week and a half or 2 weeks, protesting the war in Gaza all over college campuses here in America, are fighting for the regime in every other aspect of their life. This is just the one time where they think the bombs are just a little bit too mean. Because the 1960s lefties were like, the American regime is an evil empire, and it's bombing the shit and destroying, bombing the shit out of and destroying Vietnam for no reason. Oh, and it's, putting our own soldiers at risk. Bring the boys home kind of thing. Today's lefties are, step on me harder, daddy, but just make sure that you do it. You have soft, cushy, not Uggs. What are the little sandal things?
Oofles?
No, not sandals, but like the ugly ass
Slides?
shoes that everybody wears now.
Oh, Crocs.
Crocs, yes. But just make sure you make sure you have Crocs on when you do it. These are the same people that, called you a fascist if you didn't, get 14 vaccinations and, quadruple masked on every plane you were on. Hook, line, and sinker, everything the regime has to say with that. Spying on January 6thers, absolutely do it. But just don't drop bombs on this group of people that I really, really like because that's bad. Cave to our demands otherwise. Two completely different set of lefties. And I got to say, the lefties of today, much, much worse.
Well, yeah. Well, first of all, like you said, the flower power movement was about peace, period. Like, right. Life, death, cut it out. It's really simple. These guys, they don't even know what the fuck they're protesting most of the time. Like, you interview them, you're like, well, why are you here? It's like, well, we need to make sure that Palestine is taken care of. It's like, all right. How do you foresee doing that? What did new NYU do to Palestine? Do you know? Like, I'm from Colombia. I don't know. Do you know? She's like, turns to somebody else with a mask on in 2024. Fuck's sake, guys. Like, and not even your K95. It's just one of those little black medical ones. It's like, God damn.
Although,
put your little badge on.
Although, to be fair to them, David, I think some of them are doing it because of the the smoke bombs that the riot police are throwing in to disperse the crowd. I don't know if that person was, but some of them are. So I will say.
And by the way, you're going to want that K95 and not that piece of shit that just flops on the sides if there's smoke bombs.
You're going to learn real quick how much that did not keep from going out once you see how much comes in.
Oh, you're going to be crying. Don't you worry about that. You're going to be doing a little bit more than crying. It just seems like they're protesting for protesting's sake. Like a lot of these, and again, there's already been violence. There's already been, destruction of property. On January 6th, one person died, one of the protesters, and the only property that was damaged were the glasses that were broken through the
right.
Capitol Hill. That was it. And that's the darkest day in American history. Mm-hmm. Again, you can't take their verbiage seriously anymore. Like, when that's the darkest day, you've sunk your ship. You've moved your queen out into the center of the fucking board, your first move. Like, we don't have anywhere to go from here. It's like Louis C.K. says, what if the Lord Savior Jesus Christ impregnated you? What would you call that? You can't call that amazing. You call a basket of chicken wings amazing. What the fuck? They aren't the same thing. Like, so
Yeah.
how am I supposed to listen to you at all anymore and take you seriously anymore? I can't. You've made it impossible for me to take you seriously.
That's actually a really good point, because that's, what I wanted to say is, like, any new memes to the sane space are going to be like, oh, well, Dane and David are just like these, ultra righty sort of, Team America, wrap yourself in the flag kind of whatever. And so, Israel's our ally. So just, give them a blank check to do whatever we want.
Maybe you should educate yourself more.
Yeah. And for those memes new to the sane space, first of all, welcome. Second of all, we understand how that could come off with what we've said about this segment so far. But
watch yourself.
For those of you that have been here longer, and please get in the comment section and tell the newbies, basically where we stand on all this stuff is we are strenuous objectors to the, I don't like using the term genocide, because then it's a loaded word that you have to, bring all kinds of evidence and proof to bear to justify the use of the word. But to any extent that one is currently going on anywhere in the world today, this is about as close as you get, that is going on against the Palestinians, we strenuously object to, right? Because we are libertarians that adhere to the non-aggression principle, and that states are inherently illegitimate, and that when they do things, even if they do it in quote-unquote defense of their citizens, by definition, state action is disproportionate, because it's not a targeted focus on the actual bad actors and only the bad actors, because state weapons are inherently weapons of mass destruction. You bomb entire city blocks, you collapse buildings, you kill and or starve or gravely maim whole swaths of people that did nothing wrong. So all of that is objectionable, and all of that is wrong. And on all of those grounds, if they weren't such horrendously terrible advocates for their own cause, somebody like David and I could get on board with that sentiment. That is the key one that they should only be focused on, is pressuring your own government to put a stop to the war now. Now, again, they will try to say, well, that's the whole point of our protests, is we're trying to put pressure on the universities, so the university put pressures on the politicians to make them come to the negotiating table, or if not come to the negotiating table, go to Netanyahu and the Israeli government and say, stop this right now, or the U.S. is going to stop giving you foreign aid and all of that kind of stuff. Which, again, if that happened, great. And that's what we're all in favor of. But when you're going to stomp around, and when you're going to throw hissy fits, and when you're going to infuse it with a whole bunch of other topics that have nothing to do with the simple focus of war is going on, innocent lives are being destroyed or lost, that needs to stop, period, full stop, without imbuing it with all of this other stuff, and you're not going to have sympathies from anybody that didn't already, agree with your strategy of the way you're going about it. These are terrible, terrible advocates for their own cause, because even for somebody like David and I, who would be inclined to agree with them and actually think that what the Israeli government is doing is atrocious, we're just completely turned off to, how these, campus leftists are engaging with the whole process and conducting themselves.
There's a lot of people that were caught off guard with how these college students are acting. And I just wanted to do a quick little rundown of how we got here, because it's important to remember what you did that led you to poor outcomes. So, firstly, we were lucky to get out right before this started happening, by the way. Not to date ourselves too much, but right after we got out, I heard like 4 or 5 years later. I guess we're old now. I just dated us because I said right after we got out, and then I said 4 or 5 years later. That's not exactly right after. But anyway, moving on, Chip. I started to hear about safe spaces on college campuses. And you're like, a safe space? You mean like, are there a lot of bear on college campuses and women need to flock to these safe spaces to get away from them because they're running into men and not enough bears? Is that the safe space you're referring? Okay. No, it was safe space from any language that would ever make anybody feel uncomfortable ever. All right. I'll bite. And then it went from safe space to trigger warnings. Then it went from trigger warnings to just, I can't have anybody that disagrees with me ever on campus. And I'm willing to take it to a physical level when they chased Eric Weinstein off of Evergreen campus with bats and torches. Like, he was a fucking ogre in the swamp.
And they're justified because words are violence. Yeah.
Words are violence. And this is
so they can use
actual
literal violence to combat the words that are violence.
Which justifies their violence, right.
Right.
And then it dwindled all the way down to, like, I can only hear things that I agree with on my college campus, and if I hear something that I don't agree with, we just saw what happened. Well, we just discussed what happened to Eric. So how did you think that this ideology, like, do you just think that they get out of college and go, oh, that was a crazy experience, I'm going to leave everything that I just learned behind me, and I'm not going to use any of that knowledge to bring it forward into how I live my life now? That's not how that shit works. Like, echo chambers lead to poor results, and unchecked fucking bad ideology leads to poor outcomes, which is what we're seeing right now. So, and again, I was surprised, and I have a, I don't know if I should really say this or not, but by clientele, I have a lot of members of the tribe, shall we speak, in my clientele. And they're talking about the anti-Semitism that's rife in this country right now. Well, I think what's truly happening there is that most of them are left-leaning. They supported the BLM in their protests. They were standing with them, standing up for the little man. They supported the LGBTQ, standing up with them, standing up for their rights. And now it came down to them, and they expected reciprocity. But what do we know about the Democratic Party, Dane? They don't reciprocate.
No.
They don't give back. They don't back you up like you backed them up. So no, all of a sudden, all the people that they backed up are now saying that from Palestine to the sea, Gaza will be free. And again, I just think that it's very important to realize that it all started with protecting them from speech. Who's that guy that goes on college campuses and always lets those, college students ask him questions? He's got like shorter hair. It's kind of curly. So he's talking to this blue-haired woman that has a buzz cut, and I'll leave it at that. He's having this conversation with her, and he's like, when people stop talking, that's when shit goes really bad, like civil wars and physical violence and so on and so forth. And so we need to learn in this country to have an honorable discourse without bringing any like emotion into it. And he goes, you seem upset. She's like, I am upset. Like, well, I'm sorry that I offended you. She's like, I'm not offended. I'm angry. Like, she just did the fucking thing that he said not to do. He's like, we need to be able to have a normal discussion, but you can't with these people because they're so fucking ideological bought and paid for.
I'm glad you bring up the ideological component here, David, because, you know, the other thing that occurred to me is, although so many of these campus leftists have very punchable faces in terms of not only their faces, but also the way they carry themselves. There goes our
credibility, Dane.
I know, but the way they carry themselves.
Our call to violence. We just broke we just did the thing that I blamed the purple hair for.
Lucky for them, I'm a libertarian and believe in the NAP, so I would never do that. The non-aggression principle is it's very hard to feel sorry for the universities because for decades they have prioritized in their admissions practice through DEI bullshit like affirmative action. They have prioritized the admission of ideological social justice warriors over, you know, kids that are there for the academic pursuits and to try to learn and enrich themselves and all of that kind of stuff. Not only have the universities, especially the you know, higher, more prestigious institutions have really done this, is they have not only admitted, you know, the ideological activists over the academics, but then they've cultivated it through their pick your random underwater basket weaving nonsense degree that has nothing to do with anything other than churning out more and more activists. And then the university presidents, now that the students that they've been admitting and cultivating for decades have now turned against them, you know, and come to this table and say, we want to start a negotiation. And how we negotiate is if you don't immediately capitulate to every single one of our demands, we're going to keep destroying shit. Those are the children, those are the students that you've been creating. That's the society you've been creating in terms of this juxtaposition of, are we harnessing youth for freedom and liberty, or are we harnessing youth for tyranny and despotism? The universities have been paramount in pushing us in that direction as a society. So it's really hard to feel sorry for the university administrators and presidents and stuff like that now that they're crying foul like these kids are crazy. We don't know what the hell's gotten into them. They've been listening to you. For all of these years, they've been taking your classes and they've been taking it to heart, and now they're acting on it, and it's not exactly as pretty as what it was when you were just theorizing for all those years. So it's kind of hard to feel sorry for you.
Yeah, I saw an article that had a little graph of each country and how many dollars they had donated to college universities. You know who the first one was? It was kind of shocking to me.
What?
Just had a World Cup there.
Oh, Qatar?
Yeah, Qatar was the first one. I was a little shocked, but I was not shocked by the second one. You know what the second one was?
France?
China.
Spain? Oh, China. Yeah. All right. Yeah.
China. Yeah. That's why I kind of brought up Mao. It's not hard to draw that line right across. And then I just wanted to bring up the fact that I heard that Harvard flew a Palestinian flag at the top of one of their flagpoles during the week. Was that true?
I think the students put one up or something like that.
Man. But the cool thing is, I believe the leader of Iran offered free scholarships to anybody that gets kicked out of any of these universities. And I'd say wonderful. A study abroad program. You guys are going to love it over there. They're all about free thought and forward thinking. Go check it out. Go check out those Iranian universities. You might want to bring your burqa and cover everything on you, all 15 of your piercings. It's a cultural adjustment. You'll get it. You'll catch it. Catch the fever.
It's a sad state of affairs to see this much energy being dumped into something like this. And again, when I say something like this, absolutely protest any war, anytime, anywhere
peacefully
in the world, because they are all unjustified.
Right.
You know, to the extent that, you know, states, especially states with a grossly disproportionate, power imbalance between what they're capable of doing and what the country they're targeting is capable of doing is highly objectionable. So go for that. But the way you go about it makes all the difference in the world. And, you know, kind of the last thing that I wanted to say, on this particular topic is, do you think, and again, this is a rhetorical question, to ask the question is to answer it. Do you think they're aware that they made the bed that they're now currently lying in? And this is our opportunity to, you know, kind of call out both sides, right? Because what did the right, generally speaking, do during 9/11 and the Bush years? They cheered everything the foreign policy establishment wanted to do or say, up to and including the Patriot Act and the AUMF and everything that came from that in terms of violating civil liberties, warrantless spying on American citizens, et cetera, et cetera. And the left was standing there saying, Bush is a war criminal, we shouldn't do this, we were lied to about weapons of mass destruction, and yada, yada, yada. Fast forward to Occupy Wall Street, and for the first time, although I will say that the Occupy Wall Streeters didn't have everything right, but that's the closest I've ever seen two completely ideologically opposed groups come together on a core topic. And what I'm talking about is the Occupy movement and the Tea Party movement. You know, the left and the right kind of came together and was like, isn't it kind of fucked up that the first thing our government does during a financial collapse is take our tax dollars and bail out the people that caused the collapse? And what did the powers that be do coming out of that 2008 when they got to see too much synergy happening between the right and left? They started interjecting every bit of identity politics you can possibly do to start dividing everything. And everybody fell for the bait. Then fast forward to January 6th. And all the leftists that are cheering everything the government did, not only in terms of ramping up the warrantless surveillance and everything like that, but even during the 2020 or the 2016 election, when they just either looked the other way or cheered on the FISA court and basically how the Hillary Clinton and / Obama team, illegally used the FISA courts to not only spy on Trump during the 2016 campaign, but then also because they got a blank check on that, those sort of illegal, warrantless, government spying on domestic citizens were used to track down January 6ers. And again, the left was either totally silent or they were cheering the regime doing it. And now when we fast forward today, what is the regime doing? They are spying on and tracking down the campus protesters. They're going to charge them. They're going to do, well, probably not as much as the January 6ers because these kids are still their kids. But every single thing that the left cheered during January 6th is now going to be used as a tool against them in their oppression today. So whether you're on the right in 2001 or whether you're on the left in, when was January 6th, 2021, or
so on January 6th, Dave, you fucking idiot.
As we always say, the march to tyranny isn't a hop. It's not only the right hopping along on one foot or the left hopping along on one foot. It is a march of the left and the right foot, one at a time. And as long as you, in your ideological fog, keep saying the other side is always evil and wrong, and so whatever the state does to them is perfectly fine with me, and then the other side is saying the same thing about you, the state is just sitting there slowly grabbing more and more, violating more civil liberties, torching the Constitution more and more, or writing through every amendment line by line with a pen. And as you cheer it to happen to the other side, as David likes to always say, the door is swinging back. And to the campus protesters today, everything you cheered about happening to the Trumpers for the darkest day in history for January 6th, all of those tools that you cheered or ignored are being used against you today. And it's going to be used against the other side in the future. So, again, stop with this stupid bullshit, baseless, ridiculous divide. Come together on the core subject that your government hates you. And it will use every tool you give it against you. It's just a matter of time.
With all that being said, Dane, where can they find this episode 192 of Weapons of Meme Destruction podcast?
Find this episode at wmdpodcast.com/192. They can get the audio only on any podcast catcher. Just search Weapons of Meme Destruction. They can get the video on YouTube, Rumble, and Odyssey. They can link up with us on other socials, X, Instagram, TikTok. They can go to that webpage, wmdpodcast.com, and do all kinds of fun stuff over there, including donate to the podcast to help keep this baby running. They can join the email list so they always stay in contact with the show. In terms of staying in contact with the show, as you see that banner rolling across the bottom of this episode, you can, and for our audio-only listeners, you can text your name or anything, even a poop emoji, to 610-596-9637. That's 610-596-WMDP. That will get you on our list for automated text to tell you what's going on with the show, get you discount codes on merch, which, by the way, whether you're at the website or anywhere else, click the links to go to that merch store because we're always adding stuff. David's beautiful mug there. We got trucker hats. We got shirts.
Ooh.
We got shower curtains. We got all kinds of stuff.
We got pillows. We got other stuff as well
to show your sane space team spirit. And even more importantly than that, the fact that you continue to show up for us and for the Sane Space, the fact that you like, subscribe, share, comment, the fact that you tell friends and family about us, all those things that are free but help, grow the Sane Space and grow Weapons of Meme Destruction. We can't thank you enough, and keep fighting the good fight because we will win this war of ideas for the freedom and liberty side, one person at a time.
By God. And with that stirring optimism, guys, until next week, stay safe, but more importantly, stay free.